welcome. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is Honest to God, a production of AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. We are super pumped to be here. We got two brand new people, never been on the show before. We got Abayomi and Claire.
Hey.
It's going to be great. It's going to be a great day. And we don't do fun facts anymore because I was told by our corporate overlords that who I'm not supposed to call that we are we're not doing this. So
I'll make sure the corporate overlords know you said that.
And as always, producer Madeline is here.
I am.
Tickling keys, pressing buttons.
Yeah.
Making magic happen.
Yeah, giggling.
You're killing it. Mostly giggling.
Yeah,
mostly giggling.
giggling.
Yeah. No, we have a really good episode today. Everybody who's ever listened to the show knows I'm a huge fan of conversion stories. And we're going to do, every episode of Honest to God is filmed live. So we're going to do a conversion story today, live Saturday, at whatever today's date is, at 4 o'clock p.m. And then next week, Claire is not going to be changing her outfit or anything. She's just going to stay in the studio until next week, where we'll be doing hers as well.
Yeah. I'm just sleeping in the bathroom the whole time.
For a week?
Yeah.
We have like a really important media blackout policy here at Honest to God, where no one's allowed to know anything that's going on in the world for the last couple of weeks before your show airs. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. We'll keep DoorDashing your food through the little slot.
Oh, perfect. I've been having fun.
No, but I'm super excited today. We're going to be doing Abayomi's conversion story.
Yes.
And it's a really good one. And I want to talk, just brief intro before we kick off with a prayer and get started. I met you for the first time randomly after a KSU little talk that I gave.
Yeah.
And we just hung out on the deck at the Catholic Center. And I think I was very much like, you had one of the best, most intriguing elevator pitches for your conversion story that I've ever heard. And I don't want to say that I'm more excited about this one than anyone I've done before, but it's top 5, I think.
I have been informed that it is not normal.
Yes.
In a few ways, but
well, praise be to God, man. I can't wait to jump into it. But before we do that, let's begin as we do all things in prayer. I don't want to volunteer you, Abayomi, but typically one of the people on the show prays and not me. So if you're game, converts are usually the best prayers.
I shall.
I'm ready when you are.
Alrighty. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy upon us. Be on our lips, and send the Paraclete to defend us and protect us. Utter your words, not ours, in defense of you and in defense of ourselves, as you will do at the end of the age for us all after our final judgment. We ask this through the prayers of the Most Holy Theotokos and the prayers of St. John Chrysostom, St. John the Baptist, and St. Peter. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Did not disappoint.
Not at all.
I'm not supposed to grade prayers anymore, but if I were to, which I'm not, that would have been an A+ prayer. Hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down. That was fantastic.
I remember you said that last time.
It's still true. No, I appreciate that. And I have to say, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, I went to the Vigil Mass, which is why I'm currently rocking a flannel with paint stains on it and blue jeans, and you guys are killing it.
I would have just said I was a lumberjack.
So also, I work full time cutting down trees for a living.
The bounty.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
He's a lumberjack. Yeah, 100%. I haven't got the beard. His hair is much better than mine. All right, but not as good as Abayomi. So I want to kick over to how I start off all these conversion stories, which is, can you just set the scene for us a little bit and tell us about little bitty baby Abayomi? Where were you born? What's your family like? Where are you from? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I was born in America here. In Georgia, obviously at a hospital.
Great.
My parents, my dad is from Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. He's a white guy, blue eyes.
My dad's a white guy too.
Yeah, blue eyes, no beard, no hair actually,
no
just
way.
all around.
All right.
And my mom is from Haiti.
Oh wow.
And they met while he was doing Peace Corps down in Haiti, and just working as a civil engineer with Peace Corps, and he met her, and nobody had met her from the family or anything like that, and they just came down, and and my dad was like, "I'm marrying her," and then
his family came down to visit him in Haiti while he was working for the Peace Corps, and he said, "Hey, here's this girl, this Haitian girl. I'm gonna marry her."
Yeah.
Wow.
So my mom didn't speak any English or anything like that, and then when they were pregnant with my oldest brother, they flew off to Cambodia and did Peace Corps there for a while. And then when my brother was coming to term, my dad was like, wait a minute, pregnancy and birth is complicated and risky. So
Cambodia's not a great place to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? If you have another option, I mean.
Yeah, and if the other option is like America and you work for the government.
Right.
You know. So they came back here. They had Sirong. My mom didn't speak English still. She got in trouble for holding white babies because we all came out looking like you.
Right. Did your dad learn French or
Patos?
Or?
He knows Creole.
Oh,
Haitian
okay,
Creole.
perfect.
Yeah, he knows Haitian Creole. She and English. She knows Haitian Creole, French, and English.
Okay.
So lots of languages in my family.
Right.
I only know English because I was born here and I'm lame. Yeah.
It would be a lot cooler if you do Haitian Creole.
It would be. I know when I'm in trouble. I know like bad words too.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's important. That's not, so that's the holdover I have from middle school. Every time I meet somebody who speaks a different language, I'm always like, tell me the stuff I'm not supposed to say.
Yeah, because it's the easiest things to like remember.
Right. Yeah.
Like I know all of the Russian bad words because my coach would always scream them because
great.
no one's gonna get in trouble for saying like Russian bad words.
Right. I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate you not saying Russian bad words.
I was about to. I just thought about it.
I saw it in your eyes. And then
I was like, wait a minute. What if someone that understands those things is listening?
Well, a lot of listeners in Russia, I think, don't we? Producer Madeline? A lot of Russian listeners?
I have a friend that is going to listen to this.
I think we actually do
some,
have some.
I'm sure. Yeah. Go team.
Don't offend them.
Yeah.
So what was the religious background of your family?
My family were all Jehovah's Witnesses.
All of them?
But all of my immediate family, yes.
So wait, was your mother, when she met your father, was she a Jehovah's Witness?
Yes.
Are there a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses in Haiti?
No.
Is that how she met your father?
No.
So you just happened to bump into the only other Jehovah's Witness on the island, or that half of the island?
My dad wasn't a Jehovah's Witness yet. So
okay.
He kind of, so he was raised Catholic.
Okay.
And I only figured out this when I began converting to Catholicism, and people were like, well, at least talk to your dad because he was an altar boy and he went to Catholic school and all of these things. So obviously he's going to be able to talk you out of this. And yeah, so my dad was raised Catholic because, I mean, like my dad's side of the family is just Irish.
Sure.
Irish, all the way back. Like it's immigrants on both sides, my grandfather and my grandmother.
When he met your mother in Haiti, was he practicing?
No.
Okay.
He was not practicing.
Was she Catholic in Haiti?
And she was not Catholic, but she has like the kind of like adjacent knowledge of someone who's been in a country that has a lot of Catholicism in it.
Did she have any religious background growing up?
Yeah. So my mother's mother, she would take her to like a Catholic church every once in a while, and I believe she got baptized and things like that. But one of the kind of the wars that is happening in like the spiritual wars that's happening, well, and it's usually pretty much always the Catholics fighting them, is that like there's voodoo in Haiti, and a lot of it, and they will use the kind of the accidents of Catholicism and then do voodoo things with them. So it's very hard to tell kind of in like an obvious means, and like
you see that a lot.
Like
unfortunately,
what is actually
Caribbean,
like the God
Central
thing
America.
or whatever, because like you like this is a statue of Mary, but then like why is the snake not under her feet, and then all of a sudden you're looking at something that's actually voodoo, which I don't have any experience with, but I know that like that's a big thing with my mom. That's like that why she's like very nervous of the church, because she saw a lot of like not great stuff in Haiti that was like that looks like the church but isn't.
So when did your mom and dad become Jehovah's Witnesses?
My mom became Jehovah's Witnesses a lot earlier than a Jehovah's Witness a lot earlier than my father.
In the States though?
No, she became a Jehovah's Witness in Haiti when my father met her. He was a non-practicing Catholic, and then he married her, and then did the whole Cambodia thing, and then kind of just started practicing the faith that the Jehovah's Witnesses have, and then kind of like did that for a very long time, and then eventually like fully entered into that faith.
Okay.
By like getting baptized and stuff like that.
Sure. So they eventually come back to the U.S. because they start having babies.
Yeah.
Right. And do they come back to Georgia?
Yes, they come back to Georgia because my grandmother had moved to Georgia.
Okay.
This was their first time being in Georgia.
Okay.
So they hadn't been in Georgia before, but my grandma had bought a house in I forget, south of Atlanta.
Okay, sure.
And they went and moved in with my grandmother, And my mom couldn't talk to my grandmother, and it was really funny. She has lots of funny stories.
Oh, because your mother was speaking Creole and your grandmother, right?
Yeah.
Great.
And so as my mom's learning English and stuff like that, she gets her citizenship because she married my dad and all this other stuff. And then eventually she would go to college, and she was going to college when she was pregnant with Kiyoshi, my brother, and then kind of started teaching French when she was pregnant with me.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Two Americans.
Two Americans,
okay.
Yes. And then my dad got a job at the Environmental Protection Agency and has worked there ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and then that's kind of when I come onto the scene with like just I'm the youngest child.
Okay.
So lots of stability and like, oh, this is just how things are.
Well, praise be to God for stability, though, right?
Yeah.
In all honesty, right? You have a mother and father who love each other and love you
guys.
guys.
They were excellent parents.
Oh, praise be to God. That's great. Yeah. So you were born, when were you born? What year?
2002.
Okay, so you were born in 2002 in sort of Atlanta metro, South Atlanta suburbs, kind of.
Yeah.
And your mother and father were both practicing Jehovah's Witnesses at this point?
Yes. And when they were born, not when they were born. When I was born, they moved to Alpharetta, so like a much nicer part of the suburbs.
Sure.
And that's kind of where and they were both very much so practicing the faith of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
So can you tell us a little bit about what that looked like for you?
So for me, what that looked like is there's a basic structure of like 3 kind of times a week when you're doing things. That's like very much so like involved with the community. There's a meeting once a week that's like mostly evangelization focused. So there's Bible reading, and that's usually the men will go up and they'll just read large portions of scripture so that you're familiar with like not only like what's in the Bible, but also like how to say it yourself. And you are graded. And then
whose you are, everyone, or is this
the person that's doing it. And so like when the kids will begin doing it as well, but everyone kind of they rotate through. The whole congregation, almost all the men.
Okay.
And then there's the kind of the ministerial servants and the elders will give like an hour-long talk before that, and then the watchtower will be studied, which is like a kind of like global Jehovah's Witness like organization level like guidance kind of thing, and that's on one of the weekdays, and that would be about like an hour and 45 minutes of a meeting, and you always dress kind of like this and you go. And then there's the Sunday meeting, which is more kind of focused towards outsiders, where that's where like the watchtower is actually studied. You go through questions. It's a little bit simpler. There's a big kind of like what you guys would call a homily at like the beginning for an hour. And then there's a transition where everybody sings, goes to the bathroom, all the things. And then after that, there would be the watchtower. But the weekday meeting is like insider baseball, so that everyone can get better at being like what they're supposed to be. And then the Sunday meetings is kind of outside baseball, whole community, everybody getting together, all that stuff. And then the other thing is Saturdays. Every Saturday we would go knocking on doors, preaching, writing letters.
Every Saturday, your family?
Yeah, every Saturday in the mornings we would do that.
And it was like the whole family goes, little kids and everything.
Yeah, everybody goes. Yeah.
Cool.
So
I mean, I will say this to the Jehovah's Witnesses and to the Mormons. Every time they come up, I throw this out there. Like, props to the evangelization game, right?
Yeah, there was a bit of a kind of like a. It started as like a interesting point, and then kind of became like an anger point for me, because it was like when I eventually did come to the Catholic faith, there was like a lot of really good answers and things that like I had problems with for years.
Right.
And I was kind of like, why didn't anybody tell me?
Okay, and I want to get into all of that, but first I want to keep on with little Abayomi, mom and dad living the good Jehovah's Witnesses life, right? You're doing all this stuff.
I was doing all this stuff. I was going to all the meetings, paying attention as best I could for.
Yeah, that's a long time for a little guy to be in.
As best I could, and knocking on doors, all that stuff. As probably from like the age of like 6,
So as you get up into sort of the obligatory angsty middle school age, like what's your, I don't know, how are you feeling when you get to the age where
I don't like that I'm weird. That's what I don't like.
Okay.
Like I don't like that everybody else does this and I have to do this other thing, right? And it wasn't, and I didn't like that I didn't have any good arguments that were like why I shouldn't have to be weird, because anytime, and I still think that like this is correct, I don't think they missed on this one.
Yeah, of course.
Which is
mom and dad. Yeah.
Well, no. I mean just like the biblical principle of like you are weird and that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Like I didn't like the whole like there's the world and then there's not the world, and like we do things this way because there's like look at scripture.
Right.
The majority of the book, that is the Bible, the majority of the library, like the library is. So like here's what happens when you like don't do what the Lord tells you to do and do what the world has to do and fit in, and like because it's convenient and all of these things, and multiply wives and get a big military and all this stuff that Solomon did. Like you do this and then all of a sudden you're sacrificing your children to Amalek and you go, how did this happen? And then you rise up a new judge and then you come back and then Israel did what was right in their own eye.
Okay, so I want to dig into what you said a second ago. You said that you felt weird. Why?
Yeah.
What were you doing that felt weird?
Okay, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses have distinct practices that are like are known. You're known for, right? So first off, everybody makes fun of you because you're the knock on the door people. Mm-hmm. You and the Mormons are kind of the like butt of the joke in like late night TV. Sure. Like, and it's just kind of all the time, and everyone's like, oh, haha, these people that don't exist, basically, right? Mm-hmm. Joke, right? And you're kind of. It really does, like, what people don't realize is, like, when they make jokes like that, it reinforces, because, like, what happens is, like, you're told you will be persecuted, because, like, you will be persecuted if you follow Christ, right? That is, like, a genuine part of just, like, it's all over Scripture, right? Like, expect this, and then when, like, know that you are blessed when this happens, right? So then when that happens, and someone starts making fun of you, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, like, they told me that this was going to happen, right? Like this, look at that. Like, 2,000 years ago, he told me that this was going to happen to me.
Yeah, it creates sort of this tribalism of, there's us. There's the world and there's us. We got a wagon circle, baby. We're on the team. They're not on the team. Yeah.
Which I think, like, I guess I didn't realize because of the milieu that kind of America makes and creates, especially with, like, it kind of just takes for granted that, like, for most of history, being a Christian meant like maybe like dying really young, or your children dying, or like, and this just like happens all the time everywhere, right? Like you see like the people in Africa that are just on fire for their faith, and it's like, I mean, when Uncle got his head chopped off in a church down the road, right? Like you know why you're here.
Well, blood of the martyrs, the church,
exactly,
right? All that stuff, sure.
But like in America, it's so far away, it's so distant,
right?
Everybody's just kind of like, oh, just don't be extreme. You don't got to do all this other stuff.
Right.
And that really comes through in public school, because, well, Drew's cool and Luke's great, and like they're evangelicals and they think like, because Jehovah's Witnesses do not think that Christ is God. So then they think Christ is God. Like, what's wrong with that? And then there's Bill over here that's a Muslim. Well, probably wouldn't be Bill, but like, that's a Muslim, and like they believe in one God. Like it very much so pulls you towards indifferentivism, which it's just so appealing in America. It's so appealing, especially when you're that young.
So did you have? I mean, about what age did you have people start to sort of pick and ask questions?
Oh, that was immediate. That was like kindergarten. I distinctly have memories of being like. Everyone believed in Santa, and then I was like, guys, Santa's not real. That's like something that, which sounds so nerd, but that's a Jehovah's Witness thing. Like Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate Christmas, right? They don't celebrate the birth of our Lord because they don't believe He's our Lord, right? And like they kind of fall into very much so like if it has any kind of connection to paganism, like ever. Throughout all of history, which
so much of it does. There is a connection.
And but that's because like you converted pagans,
right?
Like all team. Of these, what the Gentiles are is they're all pagans, every single one of them.
Right.
And what Jesus promises is that all of the Gentiles are going to be converted and one day come worship the true God. And when that happens, of course, you can look back in their culture and then, oh no, look at this, Christianity stops and paganism begins. But like when they convert, right? Like there's nothing wrong about trees. God made trees. They're wonderful and they're amazing, right? But they thought that trees were this other thing. And then some of the great saints came out there with axes and chopped them down.
The sacred grove to Thor or
like
whoever.
The trees that they believed literally held up all of Middle Earth. And their point was, well, they were chopping it down from these barbaric peoples that like routinely like cut people's heads off. Like it just like you not the kind of people that you want to be doing this to.
Right.
Is like, well, why don't you let Thor defend? the tree. If it's his tree and Yggdrasil is so important to the gods, let the gods come stop me. And they think it's a good point.
That's some of my favorite anti-Catholic whatever is when people talk about, well, the Catholic Church, look at all these connections to paganism. And it's like,
yeah, it's because we converted the pagans.
We converted them, we conquered them, we took the stuff we thought was cool, and we're like, and now we're going to make that for Jesus.
Yeah, because you have to teach people, like, I mean, like, for instance, there's nothing really that special about acacia wood or the mercy seat or like the hammered work or this, that, and the third. God is working with the Hebrew people and what they know from Egypt and all this other stuff to create this thing that they'll understand and communicate to them his salvation.
100%.
Right? And he's slowly teaching them and showing them all of these things, right? And in the same way, Holy Mother Church does the exact same thing over and over and over and over again for the last 2,000 years.
And
with
will
every
for the next 2,000 years unless Jesus comes back, for the record. Right?
Yeah. Like, this is going to continue to happen.
You need to read Canticle for Leibowitz. Sorry, just a real quick book pitch.
I haven't
it's fantastic. It's about the Catholic Church 2,000 years in the future after some nuclear war. And it's like, there's nothing heretical or weird about it. It's just like, there's space monks. There's all kinds of cool stuff. Like,
I would love it.
I won't spoil.
It's so fun. That would be awesome.
All right, sorry. I want to get back because there's so much, and I'm almost positive we're going to end up going over time anyway and have to do an extended on YouTube. But so you're in middle school, you're in high school, and is sort of that I don't think it would be wrong for me to say that persecution, that people picking at you and making fun of you and whatever. Is that having an effect on you aside from I don't want to be weird? Is that making you second guess anything, or is that fortifying you?
Absolutely. It's fortifying.
It is fortifying.
Yeah.
So it's like go team, we are different. Yeah. Wagons are circled. I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, and a lot of it also comes back to like you spend a lot of time doing it, and it's a very high commitment like faith. It's a high commitment
a lot
faith.
Of buy-in.
And it's supposed to be like that, and that kind of like that sense kind of like gets to you, and like there's a lot of things that like also reinforce it because you're going out there and you're seeking other people out, knocking on their doors and saying, hey, like this is why you should believe this thing, and then people kind of just don't have good answers,
right?
And they don't have good like they for all intents and purposes, you knock on people's doors and like 9 times out of 10, it's a lukewarm something,
right?
Like, I like everything under the sun, and it's always a generic, like not meaningful, like little response, a nicety, this, that, and the third. Oh, you're preaching to the choir, brother. Like, or it's slamming the door in your face, yelling at you, or like just ignoring you, or being like, hey, yeah, no soliciting, close the door.
Right.
Like all the things, right? You kind of see everything, and you kind of what that leads to is like you can just do a callback in a talk where you go, think about all the doors you've knocked on, think about all of these people, think about their responses. Like, are they saved?
Right.
Like are these people who are on fire for God? Are these people, or are these people who are just lost in the annals of religion and the world and all these other things, right? Like, but then look around you, and you look around you, and you see a bunch of people in the modern day at 7:30 in the afternoon wearing suit and ties, and we don't do any like the Jehovah's Witnesses never did any kind of like the Protestants will do like an imitation of the mask a lot of times,
sure.
Right? For lack of a better way of saying it, right? Where they'll still do the kind of Last Supper thing. The Jehovah's Witnesses never did that. There's no like symbolism or like Christ is really present or any of that. But we were just showing up in suits because it was important to us.
Right.
And like you want to look your best, and we believe we're serving God. And like even though that's not like an embodied thing, right? Like that's just kind of the standard you bring. And like that kind of like rings home. That rings home totally. Really like strongly.
Well, especially today when, like you said, that's 99% of the country are very lukewarm or apathetic or hostile to Christianity.
Yeah.
And we collectively are just, we have this empty culture-ishness of nothingness, of apathy, and be nice niceties, and be friendly and don't hurt people's feelings.
Nothing's that important to like.
But I see how as a man, right, as a young man, give me something to be on fire for. Give me something to fight for. So how long were you all in? Like, when do you think your first sort of cracks started to appear?
So I was all in pretty much the entire time. I don't know until what age, but when I started becoming a teenager, I was always like very much so like a huge science guy. I really, really liked science, and like I was never really good at school per se. I have ADHD, so like like sticking me in a classroom where there's 30 kids.
Totally.
And like a teacher never could really manage things, but I got kicked out of class a lot, right? But I loved science. And the reason why I love science is because like YouTube is a thing now, and like I have unfettered access to YouTube.
Right.
And there were all of these documentaries about like space and like all of the different probes that we've launched and all this other stuff, and it launches me into like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he made Cosmos, and then I watched all of Cosmos, and it's just next.
Cosmos is great, by the way.
And then I find Crash Course because like we watched it in my world history class one time, and I watched the entire thing like in a week, and then I watched all of the science one, all of this one, and then they put me in an honors chemistry class because it was like the only thing I was interested in, and I like memorized the entire periodic table. Like I loved all the things that were science related. And like I got super bored in school just because of like the science classes were super slow to me, but then like math was super hard, and then I was like, but like language arts was great because I loved reading books, but everyone read super slow, and then they wanted me to do grammar things, and I just would ignore that.
Right.
I was a bad student. I was really bad at being a student. But because I loved science so much, I was looking for like I kind of. Like when I discover philosophy, right, as a thing, the first philosophies I'm sure that are showing up are like what people are posting on YouTube. I'm not reading philosophy.
Oh,
books.
Interesting. You're just having in your recommends.
Yeah. So
right?
like I go on YouTube, and this is early YouTube. Like this is not like kind of how it is now. There's no shorts. There's no anything like that. And I learned philosophy like starting at Descartes. Right, I have no idea what he's talking about, like what he's replying to, like any of these other things, and then like it's like Descartes, Nietzsche.
Yeah, as a real quick plug for anybody who's getting into philosophy, don't start with the French. Don't start with the Greeks.
No, yeah.
Start with the Greeks, and then later I have a whole section of my bookshelf that's basically French philosophers my kids shouldn't read until they're 47 years old.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
We'll get to the Sartre and all that stuff, Voltaire later. Once we understand why it's all BS.
Yeah, but like if you haven't read like Plato or Aristotle or any of these other things, which I'm like now I'm actually getting to reading them instead of just like summarizing their stuff, and like
Nicomachean Ethics changed my life.
Yeah, that's actually sitting on the table at home right now.
Dig in and just be absolutely. All right, we've got to take a real quick break. We're going to be back in a minute, and I want to start with sort of how this philosophy launches into just everything. I'm so excited. I wish we could do 8 hours on this. All right, this is super fun. We're going to be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is Honest to God, a production of Quest Atlanta's Catholic Radio. We are back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to this Honest to God, a production of the Quest Atlanta's Catholic Radio. We're going to jump right back in. Just full disclosure, behind the scenes stuff. Normally there's like a 10-minute break and people go to the bathroom and stand up and eat pizza and whatever. But I'm all in, and I want to pick up right where we left off. So that commercial break on our end, that break took about 15 seconds, maybe a little more than that. But we're gonna keep rocking and rolling here with Abayomi and his conversion story. Okay, so. You're spending all your time super into nerdy, awesome science, everything on the YouTube, all right? And you start getting into some philosophy stuff. Yeah,
and like it's important to point out, I think, that like it was still very adjacent to philosophy, because what I didn't know, what I know now and I didn't know then, was that like natural philosophy is something that comes after philosophy.
Right.
And so if you're going to do natural philosophy, what we commonly call science now, you eventually get to a point where you have to refer back to the more ancient tradition of philosophy, right? So,
and I'm sorry, are you in high school at this point?
Middle, like end of middle school, but beginning high school. But this gets really bad in the center of high school.
Okay,
right? Cool. Where like basically like I kind of like I'm being presented with the best arguments for why you shouldn't believe in God. Right, all of the best stuff, and a lot of it does refer back to like scientific means and claims. Okay, right.
Is this like Hitchens, Dawkins, New Atheism stuff, or is this like
some of it
Bertrand
is,
Russell, like actual decent, like well thought out philosophical arguments?
It's both. It's everything. It's all like kind of jumbled together, and a lot of it is like messy. And then I don't have good replies because. The Jehovah's Witnesses are almost entirely, like up until this point, I don't know what they're doing now, but up until this point, kind of situated against other forms of Christianity, really. Like, it's why not these other forms of Christianity, right?
Oh, that's interesting. It's not a defense. It's not like theistic apologetics. It's just like Jehovah's Witness apologetics versus mainstream Trinity or triune Christianity.
Yeah, it's like there is some prongs against like atheism and stuff like that, but they're not well like. They at the time they were not really well like thought out. So like,
yeah, and I'm sorry, I just want to make a real quick claim, make a real quick addendum to what I just said. Triune Christianity is not a thing. Christianity is inherently triune. So sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. I didn't want to lend credence to any anti-Trinitarianism in Christianity.
Yeah, and like it's just like the language is really complicated because Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses would consider themselves Christian, but everyone else that is Christian would not consider Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses Christian. Mormons because what they mean by the Trinity has nothing to do with the Trinity, and Jehovah's Witnesses because they explicitly deny the Son and the Holy Spirit as persons
and for the record,
of the Father.
While that is heretical and untrue, I appreciate them being so forthright about it. Thanks for being upfront with their claims that Jesus Christ is not actually God. Once again, terribly untrue, but thanks for being super clear and not opaque about it.
And I mean, I would end up finding out that that's actually like the oldest heresy in the church.
Arianism,
and all of that. But like at this point, I don't know about any of that. All I know is like kind of caricatures of the Trinity and why none of them make any sense. And instead of, and it's those things are easy to fall for, especially if you're lukewarm, which is exactly the target audience of them, because it kind of does sound like you have like they're trying to say that there's one God and then there's three parts of God, or that like there's one God and then like he's like in father mode and then he's like son mode, and like and that just doesn't make any sense. And it's like, yeah, you're right, because that's a heresy. That's not what the Trinity is, right? And they also really don't like the idea of like you cannot understand the Trinity is just a cover for its falsity, right? Like that's kind of what the argument that they'll put forth is, instead of saying like there's no mystery, right? Like instead of being like, and they'll say this, they'll turn around and say the same thing in a different way, right? Where it's like you like kind of God is like just this inexhaustible greatness, right? Like all aspects are so great that they like become infinitely simple. All of the other things, right? Like they'll say things like that, right? And that you reach a point where like your finite mind can no longer contain the infinite mystery of God.
So you're reading all this stuff, you're listening to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Are these sort of the first cracks in your sort of whole religious worldview?
But the main crack was evolution. Like the main crack was evolution versus creationism.
Okay.
Was like, I was very much so into the science, right? And so like there would kind of be this like shotgun shell attack at like all of the things that are related to what the Jehovah's Witnesses don't like about like evolution, right? But they would lump in the Big Bang Theory, abiogenesis, evolution, and then all of the extraneous claims that are tacked onto evolution by like scientists and people that are just spitballing, right, and have no proof of their theories yet, and then say all of that is basically bad and you can't believe in any of it and all that other stuff. And so when I would go to like an elder or my dad or my brother or any of these like authority figures in my life and be like, hey, hold on, the Big Bang Theory is not evolution, and abiogenesis is not evolution. And like what evolutionary theory is like observable, because dogs, like that's all it's claiming. Like what the actual theory of evolution is claiming is like, if you kill all the things that have like this gene, that gene goes away, and only the things that don't have that gene propagate, or vice versa. If all of the other stuff dies that doesn't have this other particular gene, then this one wins and it propagates, and then you just see more of that gene in the future, right?
And are you getting what kind of answers are you getting? What sort of responses are you getting?
A lot of times it's like, no, that's not what they're claiming, and it's like, no, that is what they're claiming, et cetera, or deflections, and the main thing was like, we're not saying that species can't change over time, but we're saying that usually this was a big one, right? God created them according to their kind, right? And then this immediate assumption that according to their kind means species, right? And I had a massive problem with that immediately, because we made that up. We made species up. We named the species. Like we went family, phylum, like kingdom, whatever, species, genus, species, and then species was like we flitted all of them together, right? And the best way, according to like Scripture talks about like the swimming things, and clearly fish, right? Scientists don't recognize fish as a category. Like that's not a thing. Like like there's a current debate is like, do fish exist? Because every example of what you think a fish would be has a counterexample. It's like, oh well, fish go in the water, but lungfish exist. They look like a fish, they swim like a fish, but then they breathe like air and all these other things, right? Very hard to do these things, and like it's beautiful because it's one of our like our original commands is to name all the plants and animals and all this like stuff like that. It's great. It's awesome. But it clearly is not what God created all of the organisms according to their kind in, right? Like, and I didn't know, I didn't know, and I'm not like even still saying that I know for a fact like what all of these things are, but I knew it wasn't that. It wasn't species. And it couldn't be like, you couldn't say that it was genus or it was family or it was kingdom, because that's all stuff that we did, and he did it. It like the biblical claim is that he made the things, right? And so how he made it doesn't necessarily have to correspond with something that we decided later on was going to be how we categorize things.
And you're not getting good answers. I mean, you're going and you're asking this stuff, and you're
not getting good answers. And like eventually, and I am getting good like attacks from the other side. And
from where?
From just like why like religion is silly. Just in general.
Just in stuff you're watching. And
religion's silly. Like, look at all the ways that, like, the Bible is silly, how it doesn't line up with what we kind of... And a lot of scientists are specifically attacking kind of like this young earth creationism, which the Jehovah's Witnesses are not that, but they're adjacent to it.
Okay.
It's much more loose. But they'll be like, evolution's definitely false. The Big Bang Theory is definitely false. Even though the Big Bang Theory to me like was one of the biggest things that actually gives me like evidence of like the infinite act of creation being like a single moment in time, right? Like all things have a beginning and we can see it, and that's incredible. Like if everyone else, all the atheists prior to what's his name, Monsignor George Lemaitre, I think, prior to him, right, are basically saying that the universe is eternal. Like they all are like, they want to worship the universe. They want to. They really want to. And then we get the technology to finally see the cosmic microwave background radiation. And a Catholic priest proposes the primeval atom and the Big Bang Theory, and people make fun of it by calling it this Big Bang Theory. And then all of a sudden, it's like, actually, we do have really, really good evidence.
Turns out, we're all now pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah.
And then they're spinning it, and they like will talk about it, and they'll put evolution with it, and then abiogenesis, which is that's just a hypothesis. That's not even like, we have no idea whether or not like life just jumped out of from non-life, or like whether or not chemical evolution is a thing, or whether or not you can get all of the amino acids from the primordial soup or whatever. It's like, have we done an experiment? Yeah, we made like 4 amino acids, and we haven't gotten better since that singular experiment.
So so it sounds to me like at this point in your life you're trending towards sort of angsty teenage atheism. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's the direction.
And then it like finally like that's what I am.
Oh,
like,
okay.
At a certain point.
Around what age?
I would say like 16 or 17.
That's a perfect age for angsty teenage atheism. I did that. I did it a couple years before. I was probably 14, 15, angsty teenage atheism. But did you announce that?
No.
Kept that to yourself?
I mean, yeah, for the most part. But then eventually I would talk about it more and more. And and it usually kind of went back to like what I knew how to argue, which was, like early Earth, Big Bang Theory, things like that.
Right.
All of those things like kind of like were the things where I would just sit there and I would live in that. And then then I discovered the second law of thermodynamics, and I was like, entropy exists and everything's just falling apart perpetually. Some great universe that was made, huh?
Right.
So like I would kind of always go back to those things because which is interesting. I never had a problem with like reliability of scripture or anything like that. Not until like much later when I was like converting to Catholicism did I even consider it, because textual criticism was not just something I encountered. So
for the end of high school, you have considered yourself an atheist or an agnostic?
An agnostic.
Okay.
So like my formal position would have been as I would have stated it then, because I would put it like this, like because all of our language and experience and all these other things are situated to speak about things in the universe with the universe as an assumption. You cannot speak about anything that is bigger than the universe or outside of the universe or prior to the universe, this, that, and the third. Because what does it mean to be prior other than further back in time when it doesn't exist.
Right, when there's no change.
Doesn't make any sense.
Right, and time is a measure of change. How can we...
So, like, if you don't even have the language to speak of it, you cannot know whether or not God exists because it's simply unobservable, therefore unmeasurable,
right.
Therefore
all right.
agnosticism.
So, but you're saying you kept that almost entirely to yourself throughout the entire period or just through high school?
No. I've talked to my friends about it a ton, but, like, at home, it was kind of like, I'd keep the peace.
Yeah.
But I did talk to, like... I talked to some of the elders about it. I talked to my brothers about it.
Oh, that's cool.
I got
a great family.
I ended up talking to my dad about it, and they pointed me to a lot of things, and none of them like solved the problem. Okay,
so when you went to college, would that have been your position, sort of this agnostic?
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been my position. I was going to community college and working in a mechanic shop and the stuff. And I kind of just had that, and I kept doing my science things, and eventually I got really interested in philosophy again, right? Okay. And started really going through, like, kind of the thinkers, because I was, like, still very curious about all of these things, right?
That's so great. I'm so glad. I mean, I was giving a talk at a retreat yesterday, actually, and one of my big, I give a number of talks throughout the day. One of my big ones was, ask the questions. You are so totally allowed to have difficulties on all of this stuff and dig. And the great thing about being a Catholic, right? The great thing of not having some sola fide, what is like, no, you can dig. And the great thing about it is you're going to dig and you're going to find out that some monk like 1,000 years ago answered every one of these questions already and dismissed them as ridiculous and not worthy of children. And you're going to be like, all right, great. Yeah. But that's so cool, right? Because God gives us an intellect. God gives us an intellect, and he doesn't say just believe this because you should believe it because your dad and your mom and your priest and whoever else says you should believe it. No, dig into all the stuff. You're allowed and encouraged to.
Yeah. And like that's the nice thing about, like, philosophy and, like, science people and stuff like that is they kind of have the same attitude. And I think they got that attitude from religion, and they just didn't realize it because, like, I think, like, Catholicism is probably one of the only religious movements on the planet that's kind of been like, okay, so we're gonna explore God's creation and we're gonna figure out stuff because he gave us an intellect and he made us good and he made us, like, this way specifically because it is good to discover and learn and all these other things.
Yeah, and we're not afraid. We're not afraid that science is somehow going to contradict the faith, right? Faith and reason work together. What is John Paul II, right? He talks about faith and reason being two wings on which the human reason rises. Praise be to God, dude. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so when you're going to community college, working in a mechanic shop, and I'm not fishing for any details here, but what does your personal life look like? Are you living a life, I don't know, from a moral standpoint, as if God does not exist?
Mostly. Like, I still have, like, a sense of morality, but, like, I'm following that sense of morality because, like, I know not following it would make me feel bad. And I don't like feeling bad. Yeah, okay. Feeling bad sucks. Right. So I know that to be true because it's experiential, right? Yeah. And I'm kind of, like, going off of my personal experience.
Are you still doing multiple... You're still going to the Jehovah's Witness services?
No. The moment I turned 18, I, like, very quickly stopped going to the meetings and stuff like that. Because I had long since, like, stopped believing it. And there were, like, a couple of moments between becoming agnostic and becoming Catholic where, like, I tried the faith again, but it was always, like, a practical reason. Okay. It was always, like... It was usually because, like, it was like the way of life works, like, at least a little bit. And, like, what I was doing, I could definitely tell worked worse. And stuff like that.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said for that, right? I remember being so attracted to it as a angsty atheist, agnostic, whatever, because it was just the way humans had existed forever, and communities are based on shared culture and shared faith, and it seems kind of nice, right?
So, like, I mean, I am fully atheist, all of the things, and I start dating a girl that is, like, more than lukewarm Catholic, but not, like, on fire for her faith. Okay. And we kind of have a secular relationship, and a lot of the, like, stuff, like, I'm kind of going, like, okay, well, I might as well figure out what she's going to want me to do later. Right. Right? Like, what am I going to have to do to, like, jump through the hoops and do the things? Because, like, I like the girl, so, like, I'd like to keep her around, things like that. And... then I kind of, like, she starts reading a a book that she was like, you would really like this book. It's about this guy who like questioned all the things about religion and then came to the conclusion that it was true. Mm-hmm. And specifically Catholicism. And I was like, sure, I guess. Like, totally. I did not believe that this was the case. And she was talking about St. Thomas Aquinas.
Oh, no, you should read this book. And this book is the Summa? Is that the
cool
book?
Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting guy.
It was the Summa.
He's got some neat thoughts on things.
Yeah. And like now I'm like really into philosophy and stuff like that now because like I've really spent a lot of time in the science kind of realm of things, and I'm kind of past the point where like a popular level can get it.
Right.
And there'd be a ton of math to go further. So like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna say that I believe this stuff because like I don't want to learn the math yet. I'm just not that into it. Like I suck at math. And then I start doing more philosophy and reading like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I pick up Machiavelli and like a couple of more like modern thinkers. I read like Imagining Sisyphus Happy. Camus, yeah.
Sure.
And then I start listening to a bunch of Alex O'Connor.
Okay. I'm not familiar.
He's like he started out very new atheist and then kind of was this guy who like philosophy dude, and then Joe Foley. I don't know if you know Joe Foley either, but like Joe Foley would basically read these like really hard to read books to me, right? Because and like it started like and some of them like I've read and it's been like totally fantastic, but like some of them get pretty difficult to read because like they're just old, really, really old, and they use philosophical language like left, right, like all over the place. And so like while I'm learning how to like really get all these terms down, like ontology and epistemology and epistemics and like all this other stuff, I'm kind of like watching Joe Foley, reading the book, and then watching Alex O'Connor because they just talk about the philosophical like things, like what the ideas are from like the perspective of the philosopher.
And is this just a philosophical exercise for you at this point? You just think it's interesting to maybe I should probably dig into some of this stuff that I haven't really touched on.
Oh yeah, because maybe they got some answers.
Yeah, cool.
Know?
Okay.
And I don't really know about what, but like kind of like life, the universe, everything, 42. I don't know.
Great. Redhead Chakras guy.
Yeah. I also read that. I got like a really nice Ultimate Edition with all of them and just killed that.
That's great.
That was great. And then like I get super into philosophy to the point where like I'm like checking people that are too sciencey with like, hey, you're actually out of your element now. Like you're trying to establish by inductive reasoning what can only be established deductively by the nature of the question, and it's like super nerdy stuff like that.
No, this is great
super
though, 'cause
cringy.
That is why all the new atheists are so lame though, because they're just never in their lane.
No, yeah, it's
the whole time I'm like,
yeah.
Dawkins, what are you talking about?
And like this is one of the things that like really made me love Alex O'Connor and Joe Foley and things like that, is they would like call out Dawkins and like Hitchens and who's the other guy, the doctor guy.
I trust you. Those are the two that I know off the top of my head.
And they would be like, hey, this is a terrible answer to this question.
I was listening, there was a quote from somebody I was listening to the other day, and they were talking about how they were asked how they felt about the new atheists, and this was in the midst of all of it, right? They said, I personally prefer the old atheists. And they're like, the old atheists do a much better job than the new atheists, because the old atheists kind of get it, and they're actually seeking.
They know what they're applying to, you know, like they know what they're talking about. Like they understand the philosophical traditions of the people that came before them,
right?
And they're like responding to them. And I have no idea about like these people that they're responding to. I have no idea what the scholastics exist. Clearly, if like St. Thomas Aquinas was just like a guy to me,
right?
And then. I remember being like pretty like, I remember like watching a Jordan Peterson video and him kind of saying this like and being comfortable because he wasn't a religious person trying to tell me about religion and all these other things, which I was extremely wary of, being previously Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
And he said like, okay, you live in this civilization that for much longer than it's been modern has been Christian. And like really Christian. And for like a couple thousand years, like it has built all of, not only just your civilization, but all of the civilizations that were around it, and the ones that were around that, and all of the nations that were around that. From Middle Eastern to African to all of Europe, right? It's just deeply inculcated in Christianity to the point where what are the Muslims doing? They're responding to it. Right. What are the the pagans doing? They're responding to it.
I would argue Islam itself is even a response to it.
Right? Yeah, I would say that's kind of what I meant.
Mohammedanism is listed as a heresy, a Christian heresy in a lot of the old religious stuff.
Exactly.
I'm hearing your Matt Frad come out in Mohammedism, so I'm recognizing that.
No, I've made a concerted effort to start referring to it as Mohammedism, right? Because anything else is...
And basically his point was if you're going to call yourself a cultured individual, and not even call yourself a cultured individual, I wanted to be called that or something.
Right.
If you're going to say that you know anything as an educated person who's talking about philosophy or science or any of this other stuff, you should read the Bible.
Yeah.
Are you scared that you're going to be convinced by it or something? It doesn't make any sense, right? And it's not and I wasn't, but I was, so I just picked it up, and we had this old King James Bible, because I knew a lot of people complained about the Jehovah's Witness translation of the Bible.
Why did you have a King James Bible?
Because the King James Bible actually has the word Jehovah in it.
Okay.
In one of the Psalms.
So you're allowed to...
And usually, Protestants will have a King James Bible, and one of the things that they'll do, or witnesses will do, is be because one of the main points is they took God's name out of the Bible, right? And God's name is Jehovah, and they just removed all of this other stuff, and that's how people end up mistaking Jesus as God later, and a bunch of stuff tied to it, but they left it in for this one verse, and it's right there, and it's Jehovah, and all the other times they replace it with capital L-O-R-D because they fall into the fake faith, and they're no longer following Christ. And
that's interesting.
Jehovah.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that, right?
Yeah.
Is it Russell Taze?
George Russell.
George Russell. Okay. Yeah. Who retranslated the Bible in the 1930s? Yes. I'm super rusty.
Late 1800s.
1830s. Okay, sorry. Yeah. And so a lot of times when you're discussing with a Jehovah's Witness, right? They're operating on a very different translation, a very different understanding, correct?
It's very subtly different too, which makes it, to be honest, more dangerous. Because unless you can go back to the Koine Greek and establish grammatically why this shouldn't be the sentence that's written here, you're at an impasse immediately.
Right.
So that is one of the biggest difficulties that I faced is you have to go to a Greek study to figure out what all of the Koine Greek words mean and how the grammatical structure is all situated and what that's trying to say, to be able to say, hey, John 1:1 really is a divine claim. It's saying the most accurate translation of John 1:1 to modern English is in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was divine. Right? It's clearly a claim to divinity. Right? Now you could say that maybe that's lesser divinity. You could still Arius was working with the Koine Greek, and he was still able to make his case, right? But that just adds a humongous level of difficulty to because we're not reading from the same page. And a couple of other things, and you kind of have to get into these really niche arguments because it just gets really muddy, and it's that way on purpose. It is a Protestant reading the scriptures, retranslating the Bible, and coming up with a Protestants derivative. Right. And it's so far away from what originally was being taught that you almost can't argue because you can't find the common ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I want to get into all of these weeds. I think it's so interesting. I think it's so one of the big arguments that you'll have people make. I was listening to somebody actually as I was driving down here today who was one of these sort of TikTok soundbitey apologists, which are lame, I think, just definitionally. And they were digging into, they were going after the Catholics because of, we have all of these popes who are reaffirming other popes, and some disagree with other popes, and they treat it as look at this muddy craziness. This is ridiculous. I just wanted to say, dude, I got 10,000, more frustrating, difficult minutia of back and forth. You go back to anything from...
just go back to the scriptures.
Yeah.
And,
you see it in Acts.
Judges.
You see Paul. But in Acts, you see Paul and Peter.
They're going at
We've been doing this forever.
Paul's correcting him, but he's supposed to be the head of the church.
And if anything, that reaffirms my my faith in the church, right? Yeah. Because of how somehow after all of this crap for 6,000 or 2,000 years of Christianity and 6,000 years of God revealing himself, right? The church is here, and it's rock and rolling, pretty great.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So to get us back on track, we do have about, oh wow, we're already over time. All right, so if you're listening on the radio, we're gonna have to cut right now. Make sure you check out the rest of this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, or you can watch the rest of this video over on YouTube. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for watching. This is Honest to God, a production of the Quest Atlanta's Catholic Radio. Producer Madeline,
Signing off.
over and out. But I'm not gonna throw the pen because we're gonna jump right back in. All right. So right now, you're reading all this stuff. You're reading that rando St. Thomas Aquinas and whatever it is he felt like jotting down.
Well, I'm not reading him yet.
Oh, okay.
My
Girlfriend
ex-girlfriend
recommended it.
is
Okay.
reading it, right? And I'm not reading it. And
Okay.
I still have all of my problems with the existence of God and all these other things, and et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that ends up happening is she moves way off down to Milledgeville, and everyone starts talking about this whole thing of like, oh, well, I guess it's over. Like it was just, just gone, right? Like, just like that. And I wasn't planning on, like, I've never, because I was raised Jehovah's Witness, like, I was always raised that, like, like, dating is not frivolous, right? And so even though I'm an agnostic, I kind of have the ethics still. Like, I'm still, like,
good. That's a good ethic to hold on to.
I don't want to just jump around like crazy. I'm investing in this person to keep doing it, right? And I really didn't like that, and I got really frustrated with that. And like one of the things that happened was like, there's got to be a way to do this that's like not this, because this isn't right. This doesn't make any sense, right? And quite frankly, it sucks. And it just got me really frustrated. With like the sexual ethic that I was taught, like from the world,
right?
And I wouldn't have called it like that, like when I was in it, you know. But I was just really like, because like there's all these memes, there's all this stuff, and it's like, what's the thing? It's like girl goes off to college, like, and then boyfriend tries to make it work, and then he walks into her dorm room and she's cheating on him,
Sure,
right? Like, and that's kind of just this perpetual kind of thing that's constantly being joked about, like all this other stuff. And I was just like, I don't want that to happen though, right? And doesn't matter. And I genuinely said this at the time, not just because like of the way the story worked out, right? Like, no matter who I end up with, like I want to do it correctly, and there has to be a correct way. And so the first thing I flip to is like, okay, what does the science have to say?
Interesting.
Like, what does the science have to say about like getting me what I want? Right. Which is like how we approach like almost everything in the modern world, right? Like, I want to go this speed. How do I engineer a car to do that? Right. And so that's exactly how I was approaching this, which is like, if we've done studies, I want to know what they are. And I'm now reading the scriptures from an anthropological lens.
Okay.
And so these three things kind of happen kind of all like at the same time and like kind of blend together a little bit. But it's kind of the beginning of my conversion, right? So I'm researching like dating, marriage, divorce, all of these things. And then I'm researching like dating, divorce, all of that. I'm reading the Bible starting in Matthew, right? And then I'm also like, yes, I'm doing the philosophy thing as well, right? But I'm going to school and what did I say? Researching dating, reading the Gospels, and I'm going to school and studying engineering, right? I'm still studying engineering, but I'm learning calculus, and I'm not good at math. And I chose engineering, which may have been a bad decision, but I was a mechanic, and I was like, I know machines. I like machines. I love machines. I'm going to do mechanical engineering. Because as long as I can do the math, if I can get over that myself and get a C in the math classes, I'll be okay. And I ended up getting an A in calculus, but it was because of this one girl at the tutoring center of my college named Bree, who is now in a Carmelite monastery.
No way!
Yeah. She's so cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I talked to her while I was discerning. She's so sweet.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, Bree is amazing. And for the first time, like I'm like, what we would do is like every day we'd have class because it was summer semester, 8 weeks, all of calculus 1. So like all of derivations, all of the other things, like everything all the way up to integration is going to be
all Greek to me. I don't
right.
Never took calculus.
And I didn't do well in high school, so I had to start with like quantitative reasoning in college, and then do algebra, and then do pre-calculus and then do calculus.
Okay.
So like not exactly the strongest math student. So a lot of this stuff that I'm like learning it, I just learned it and I'm like now implementing it to the next level. And there's like 17-year-olds that are like that already took the class last year, like in their AP Calc and whatever, and they're just like whipping through it. And I'm like, this 21-year-old. They just got like just stop working at like a mechanic shop and all this other stuff. And like I'm interested in all these other things, but like, man, am I not good at math? Because like again, I got kicked out a lot of classes, and a lot of those classes were like, how do you do square roots? Like what are square roots? How do you do them? Things like that. How do you like multiply fractions and stuff? Like I just wasn't there for that. So like I'm just missing essential things. And how I made up for that was with my TI-84, and then Kennesaw makes you use a TI-30, which is just like my dad's calculator from the 60s. Like
big buttons that you...
it's got buttons and a single line screen, and like it can do trig, and that's it. And it doesn't give you like what you want in trig. It gives you just degree out to like 100 decimal points, and that's it. Like that's all you have to work with. There's no equations, there's no anything like that. And I was like panicking, super scared. So I like finally humble myself and go to the tutoring center, and I meet like there's this black guy named Kijan and this tall girl named Bree that I'm basically learning calculus from. I'm going to class, and then I'm coming out of class and immediately going to the tutoring center and sitting there for the rest of the day to do like the homework that's due every single day, right? Which would normally you'd have a week to do, but because it's 8 weeks, like you're doing like two or three a week. So you're like kind of like boom, boom, like you have to keep on top of it or else you're gonna fall behind, which is fantastic for me because the moment I'm panicking, it's when I do my best work. So I was just perpetually like, and then I did great. And so Bree is like the reason why I got an A in the class, right? Never got an A in a math class before in my life until calculus. Also like catapulted me and like, wow, I really can't do engineering because like the math isn't really that scary. I just need to practice, right? And Bree, I then find out this super smart girl that's teaching me all calculus and all this other stuff and can do all of my problems in like 20 seconds that it's taking me like an hour and a half to do, is a Catholic and like a really devout Catholic and wants to be a nun. And I was like, why would you ever want to do that? Like that's like a 1500s thing. What are we talking about? Which is just prehistory for me, basically, right? Like I've only read the like philosophers that are in like the 16 or 1700s, right? And like they're kind of dumb in my opinion. Is like kind of my like atheistic. It's like they didn't know yet like what we're really gonna get to later, right? In the 19th century, like that's where really philosophy is.
Wait till you hear about the philosophers from the 4th century BC. Those guys were all over.
And so we get into this argument, and it wasn't by we, I mean like all of the people that came to the Smart Center, because like a huge chunk of my class, with like a bunch of boys, would just get together, we'd go to the Smart Center, and we would just work together to learn calc. And she was kind of always helping us. And we have an Eastern Orthodox guy, Anglican, a Methodist, Presbyterian, a ex-Jehovah's Witness, an atheist, a Baptist, another Baptist, and then like a couple evangelicals sitting at this huge glass table with like markers and stuff like that doing calculus. And then someone who wants to be a Catholic nun, kind of. Awesome. And so like no idea about all of this, but like there's like a pot brewing, and eventually after a test where we all did great on and we were super happy, and we just went to the Smart Center out of habit, and we were sitting there and we're like leaning back and we're just chatting it up and we're being loud black people, and it's great. And it's just
that black?
Like a lot of the class, like at least half of the kids there were black guys, and then the other like another like third was, or another like fourth was like some kind of spicy, right? There was like either mixed or Ethiopian or like Indian or like something else, and then there was like a couple white guys there, and then Bree.
Awesome.
And as we eventually start talking about God, and like I kind of go like I don't really care if you believe about God. We should get along, which is kind of like universal American opinion. Great. You can't lose with that, right? And Bree has none of it. None of it. Not a single thing. Like, she doesn't want to hear it. She's like, no, because someone's right.
You go,
and basically,
Bree.
like,
right.
and she was like, and here's what I think it is. And if you think that I'm wrong, I want you to tell me why. because if I believe the wrong thing, I want to stop believing it now.
Right.
And so tell me why you think I'm wrong. And basically, like, people just like, it was like you were you just like the imagination is like F-16 like turns on a beacon and just flies right through enemy territory, and like just Sam just starts screaming into the sky, like from all directions, and just like like one by one, like flares, chaff, like just basically like very like with charity, right? But like I was really frustrated because I wasn't winning, and no one else was either, and
except for Bree,
and she was kind of winning. And there was this other guy who now I know he's great, Adam, who like he's discerning the priesthood as well, sitting like behind, and he's just got his like. He's just sitting here like this, going like this, right?
Man, I didn't know Adam was part of this group.
Yeah. He walks in, and like Kijan is having the time of his life. He's not even Catholic, but he's had these arguments with Adam and Bree before, right? And so he's another one of the tutoring, and he's just sitting back, like he's looking back at her, and he's like, "Oh, you proud of her, huh?" And, like, it was hilarious now, but like at the time, I was very frustrated. And one she kept bringing up things I'd never heard of before, and it was like really frustrating. Shroud of Turin was one of them.
Okay.
Eucharistic miracles.
Awesome.
Marian apparitions.
Awesome.
And my biggest problem with religion was like it's always this like thing that you can't see.
There's no science element to it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like we could do an experiment, and it's like, no, actually we did do the experiment. We held up this piece of bread and this cup and prayed over it in the way that Jesus did, and then it turned into blood and flesh, and we tested it, and it was living tissue. And we also did that with like the same miracle that happened in 600, and
same blood type,
same piece of the heart, still living tissue, which with like we know we have a paper trail of where this has been, and so like where did they get the heart from if they're faking this? How are they faking this? Like, and they got to fake every single one of them, right? And it's like, and like I've never heard of these things. And then one of the things that really like struck me that like I never ever heard of, and I'm reading the Bible actively, right? I'm reading the King James version, like the 1611 translation, because I think it's really beautiful and sounds cool. It's beautiful,
by the way. Yeah.
And I just read a really old translation of Marcus Aurelius, so I was like familiar with that kind of language and all these other things. And I was like, well, I want to keep doing this so I can keep reading old books. So I'm reading the oldest version of the English Bible that I can, right? In from to my knowledge, right? And she's bringing up stuff that like just keeps going, like the Deuterocanon. Never heard about that. And then she says church fathers, and I'm like, who are those? Like, and it just kept going.
This is all at the same meeting around this table.
Meeting, right?
Awesome.
And then like she talks about Matthew 16, where it's like Simon, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. And then goes like, let's see what those words are in Greek: Petros, Petra, and then rock. Christ started a church, and the gates of Hades will never prevail against it. I never heard that before. Like, I never heard that before. And I spent, like, the majority of my life up till this point, not as an atheist, but someone, like, reading the Bible, like, extensively, either to other people, to myself, or to an audience, like, 3 days out of the week, every single week of the year. Right? I'd never heard that. I'd never seen that. I'd never I missed it when I read Matthew, because I'm not in Matthew anymore.
Right.
I'm in I think I'm in Luke. I've already read Matthew and Mark, and I'm reading Luke, and she refers back to a book that I just read and shows me something that I didn't see, and then goes, Christ started a church. And I was like very troubled by this. Like, and it was the kind of troubled that like it's so troubled that you have to ignore it.
Right.
Like you can't face this right now. You got a test to pass. You got all those other things.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right, that's weird. I'll refer back to that later. Whatever.
Yeah.
That wild. And then you keep going with your life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. And I kept like going to school and all the things. And then I'm reading the Bible more and more and more. Right. And I kind of get struck by like Jesus. Because like even as I'm an agnostic, right, which is basically a big old I don't know, right?
Sure.
And I'm reading these 4 books that have pretty good manuscript evidence, right? Like I did a little bit of double checking to make sure that like, oh, like is there actually a problem, or am I reading like something from the 18th century? Like I've heard about this translation argument, and then I kind of like I'm watching my like favorite atheists and agnostics, and they're like, yeah, the translation argument's a bad one. And here's why. Because we have these manuscripts and we kind of date them to at least this time. And although, yes, there's significant variation, they would overplay that a little bit.
Right.
We have so many manuscripts that we can really nail down what like the most likely translation of at least the New Testament is. And then the Dead Sea Scrolls is another like amazing thing. So we know they're saying this, but like, to an agnostic or to an atheist and someone who's really involved in science, like a piece of paper just doesn't really matter that much to you, right? Like the significance of just information about a thing doesn't really hit you because you're constantly going through scientific papers and other things like that, where it's just like you get a lot of stuff. You're always reading information. And then I'm in Calculus 2, which is was much more difficult for me than Calculus 1. Bree's not a tutor anymore, and the Smart Center's too packed because it's fall, and I'm kind of like doing it on my own. I'm practicing some practice problems, and I remember like St. Thomas Aquinas from like, you know, like something like oh yeah, like my ex talked about that, you know, and I see on my YouTube a Bishop Robert Barron documentary about St. Thomas Aquinas, right? And I start watching. And while like just that same week, like I'm thinking, man, it's really like it's Paul that I disagree with, and Moses and all these other people. Like I agree with Jesus. Like I'm on the same page as Jesus. Like you shouldn't get divorced. That sucks. Like no one wants to get divorced.
That
Jesus
blows.
Guy
did have
you
some really
shouldn't
good
do
points.
that. Like if everyone just didn't do that, the world would be a better place for sure. Like that was kind of where I was at, and like. Man, pick up your cross and follow. Like, oh yeah, like, oh, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, and like just the awesomeness of like it was a great story. Like, I was like, this is an amazing story, and like I totally understand how like a civilization thrived off of this. Like, awesome, cool, and like all of the moral ethics of Christ. I was like pretty much like, yeah, this is good. I like this. I wouldn't mind doing this, but like I just didn't think that a lot of there's all these fantastical elements, right? Which not a unique position. Again, Thomas Jefferson had that exact position that I was at then, right? Where he takes out all the what he sees as fantasy and makes the Jefferson Bible, which is like just horrendously neutered Bible.
Right. No miracles. No. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt because I was just like, for surely like we just don't see things like that. And don't have evidence, et cetera, right? And then, so that like while that's happening, right? I'm doing some Calculus 2 homework, and I'm watching this documentary in the background just as like noise, because I like St. Thomas Aquinas was a philosopher, big theologian, things like that. It'd be cool to know what he thought about things because I've heard good stuff, right? And I remember Bishop Robert Barron kind of getting to this point, like, and saying, if you had told St. Thomas Aquinas in his like classic, like Bishop Robert Barron, like epic, like way of like representing the other side really, really well, and then like just delivering it.
100%.
Like if you were to say to St. Thomas Aquinas that like God was a being among beings, like that he was a being, he would have told you were wrong. And I'm like, okay, okay, well, hold on. This doesn't make any sense. Like that's not how this, like, what are you about to say? Right? It's just very intriguing, and I'm kind of confused and bamboozled a little bit. And so I stopped doing my math problem, and I click over to the video. And then he says, no, to St. Thomas Aquinas, God is being. And I was like, that's the same thing. What are you talking about? Right? And I didn't know, like, but I remember, like, I just, like, kind of just, like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, I don't understand what he's trying to say. And then he goes and says, to be, right? And I'm like, that still doesn't make sense. But I need to figure out what this person's saying. Like, I need to figure out what he means by that, right? And so I do a little, like, go type in, like, St. Thomas Aquinas, God is being, enter, right? And start reading, and then watch a couple videos, and then I encounter the Aristotelian argument for God's existence, and that never leaves me. Like, just contingency as like a whole, like, okay, so you have contingent objects, and what a contingent object is definitionally is something that relies on something else for its being. So A good example of this is like you are a contingent person because like your parents, if I went back in time and killed one of them before, et cetera, you wouldn't be here, right? But all objects are this way. You can do this vertically, you can do this horizontally, or you can do this. I think there's also a Z way to do this, but I'm not really good at arguing that one. But like basically, like if I have this microphone, and like if this isn't here, microphone can't stay up. But if the table's not here, this can't stay up. And then if the ground's not here, the building's not here, the table can't stay up. And you kind of have to go all the way down to a first principle, right? Which is like eventually you think like, oh, maybe it's the earth, right? But the earth is reliant on certain things, physical laws, things like that. If there's no strong force, there's no atoms, right? So then there's no earth, right? If there's no gravitational force, then those atoms don't collect together. So there's no planet because there's no atoms collecting together.
Right.
If there's no electrons, none of the whole chain doesn't work, right? If there's no et cetera, right? And you basically just kind of get stuck at fundamental forces, Big Bang, right? And a key principle for me at the time, which I had used to skin off religion like multiple times, was Occam's razor, right? William of Occam, and it was like the more complicated and more assumptions you have to make for something, the more likely it is to be false, right? So this is why certain unprovable things you can kind of dismiss, because you can't prove it false, but you can dismiss it. So like last Thursdayism is the perfect example.
Yes.
Like how do you know that the universe and everything else in it, including you and all of your memories and all of this stuff, wasn't just made last Thursday? And like you can't disprove that. Like it could be. Like you have no idea. It accounts for all the things. But think about the amount of assumptions that you would have to make for that to be true. It's an endless list, right? But even when you go to the root, the base of science, like what we would call the fundamentals of science, right? Quantum physics, the quantum field theory, all this other stuff, which basically comes down to like, you have a couple other things, but you have three fundamental forces, right? And then space-time, right? But like you have a lot of assumptions there. You have the like gravitation, electromagnetism, strong, weak force, which I think we just got rolled into electromagnetism, but doesn't matter. Like you have these four fundamental forces, which like they just are. Like they just are. And like scientists will tell you this. Like physics 2 is so frustrating because like you're like, well, what is an electromagnetic field? And they're like,
it's there.
It's a force.
Right.
And you're like, well, what is the force? And they're like, it's just the force. It's the electromagnetic force. Like it's a fundamental force. Just accept it and go on, right? So like you're just kind of like working with magic. Like, you're like explain to me how gravity is not magic.
Right.
Like, like it's the same thing. Like
Big
it's just
stuff
like for some reason
closer.
there's stuff and stuff likes other stuff, so it goes near it. Like that's the whole thing.
Right.
And like electromagnetism is like the same is very similar, right? And then you have like this whole Big Bang thing, like this arbitrary start to the universe, right? Which like somehow like is woven with time. So you have space, time, like it's the same thing, right? Like you bend space and you are physically bending time. Like these are woven together. They are like the same fabric. They make up what is like space in the universe. It is intimately related with time. So if space has a beginning, time also has that same beginning. It shares it, like it almost necessarily does. Like there's maybe an out, but like I don't see it personally.
Sure.
And it all goes back to this singular point which erupts into existence, right? And it all works out just the way that it needs to make all of this happen.
And is this all sort of crashing in on
all
you at
crashing
once?
in, right? Because at the same time, I'm reading like, oh, that does look a lot like Genesis, because I'm like peeking back to make sure I like knew what I was talking about before, which, and then I'm like reading more Catholic stuff, which is like, wait a minute, like it's Hebrew poetry, like
how much is your pride getting in the way right now?
A huge amount, because like a lot of this is like even and it's getting in a way that I didn't even realize it. It was like because I'm starting to see that like I actually agree with virtue, like virtue ethics, as in like the best thing is to make good people, and what that means is virtuous person, and what a virtuous person is like classical virtue, right? And like I just agree with it, and I can't tell you why. And maybe I would have gone to like ethical emotivism, where it's just an emotional thing because it like works really well in society or whatever. But
turns out it's because natural law is written on your heart, and
but I'm also reading like Paul's saying that, and I'm like, it could be either. Like I don't know. Like it could be that like, oh yeah, sure, it's the evolutionary advantageous thing, right? Component, except for like what Christ did wasn't that at all, right? And that's becoming a problem for me. But it's also like I just can't shake the idea that like maybe God made everything, right? And I keep going back to this contingency argument over and over again. And eventually I'm like, wait a minute. I'm watching a Trent Horn video at this point.
Oh, dude, you're in deep if you're into Trent Horn stuff.
I'm in
yeah,
deep.
there's no going back once you click on that Trent Horn video.
I'm for sure in deep because I watched the Alex O'Connor Trent Horn debate.
Awesome.
And that's where I like one of the ways that I encounter like the contingency argument. I think from like a horizontal lens, which is a little bit better because it's all happening at the same time.
Right.
So you can't just be like, it's a lot harder to do the whole like, well, there's just another thing after that, and another thing after that, and another thing after that, and then you can just go, oh, well, there's just an infinite number of universes, and then just allows you to escape and escape.
But Thomas Aquinas says an infinite regress is impossible. But that's another day. Time.
But I didn't understand. I didn't understand, and I'm not even sure that I still understand. But I did understand Trent Horn's argument, which was like, it doesn't matter how many train cars you have, right? Something has to be pulling the train. And if contingent objects are a chain of being, a being chain, where everything's getting their being from somewhere else, there has to be a deposit of being. Like there has to be somewhere where like inherent being exists. And then the next thing that just like, I don't know if this is like the actual argument or like if this just occurred to me, was that like, okay, I have to assume strong force, weak force, electromagnetism, gravitational force, space-time being woven that way, the Higgs field being set such that the speed of light in a vacuum is approximately like 300 million meters per second. And I'm just assuming all of this. Like it's all just like constants and all of these other things that just like exist and they just are and we have no idea why and they just like, they just are that way.
Right.
And, or being itself has a will. Or there's like an uncontingent chain. There's an uncontingent piece. There's a train car that pulls all the other train cars. There's a source of being. And I was just, you know what? I think there's a source of being. Like I just assented because like it just makes more sense. There's less assumptions in saying that there's a source of being because everything that I can see and every like clearly to me works in a contingent manner.
Right.
Like it's just so obvious, right? And the more you think about it, the more you cannot find an uncontingent thing. Because if it has a beginning, it's definitely contingent because it started. Like there, you know what I mean? And if time itself starts,
right.
That can't be it.
Right.
It has to be something eternal. It has to be something powerful because it creates everything. It's responsible for everything because it's being itself. It's but definitionally powerful.
So did you consider yourself a theist at this point?
I'm like border. I'm like maybe, but like not in the way that everybody else is. You
right.
know?
Yeah,
like,
the cool way.
Like
I
have this
way.
super cool philosophical way that I'm
figured it out separately.
Yeah. I definitely didn't just read what Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas said and just go that. That's exactly what like happens. Is like I'm like I believe in God. I believe in God. I believe in God is one, and I believe that God has a will. And I don't know if that has anything to do with us, or if Jesus is real, or any of these other things. But I think that the best explanation for not only all of the scientific evidence, but all of the actual experience that I have of qualia and consciousness and theory of mind and all this other stuff is just to say that there is a source of being, and it has a will, and it desired us to be.
Cool. That's so cool.
And that's how I come to believe in God.
Right.
Again. And it like one of the biggest stepping stones that I got over was that like first off, I just got the answer to whether or not God existed in my like because I'm pretty confident now that like this is just what I believe, right, at this point, from the Catholic philosopher.
Right.
So I might as well keep reading him.
Right.
So like I like leap directly over Protestantism
Great.
and all of
Good
that
move.
other stuff.
Yeah.
And go straight
Don't
into
waste your
like
time.
I'm gonna be Catholic or I'm gonna be some other like God is one something. Like God is one something.
And you're saying this is because of Thomas. This is because of St. Thomas Aquinas. Right.
It's because of St. Thomas Aquinas, and the argument being that like if I'm gonna try and limit the number of assumptions to there's a source of being and it's one, right? I just said that there's one God.
Okay.
That's what I
So
said. Like there's not many gods.
A theist and not a Christian at this point?
A theist and a monotheist at that, right?
Great.
Which eliminates all of the other religions except for Hinduism, or I mean technically Hinduism, but I didn't take a long look at that.
That's fine too, yeah.
Yeah, but it's really Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, right? Judaism kind of seems to be in all three. Right. Like it's kind of the root of all of them, right?
Yeah, it is funny how you can be a Muslim or a Christian and be like, yeah, Jews, you were before, great job, anyway.
Yeah.
Right? There's not a whole lot of
Yeah. And and the first thing I go is like massive points for Judaism, because where's Thomas Aquinas getting this from? right? His reference in the Summa, because I've bought the Summa by this point. I bought it and I'm doing my best to read it, and I'm finding out that like 4 pages takes me a week, and that I shouldn't have bought it. I should have just read it for free on the internet. But I'm so glad that I have it because it's just amazing.
I inherited a copy of the Summa. It's cool.
Fantastic.
I got a whole set of the great books, Mortimer Adler's great books.
Oh yeah,
they're just gifted to me.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was the best.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I love, but I also love physical books, and I love looking at a bookshelf.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. It tickles my brain.
Spent way too much money on a
Yeah.
wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling bookshelf in one of my rooms. Got a chessboard in there. It's very pretentious. Oh, and a wildebeest up on the wall.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's okay. So you're diving in. You're deep dive. You're going. Are you seriously considering? Like, did you read the Quran or anything?
I read parts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read parts of it, but I kind of come across the Islamic dilemma, and I go, okay.
I've been told that it doesn't count because I read it in English, but it's pretty
Yeah,
wackadoo.
but if that's the case, then like, really?
No, that's how I the genies are fun.
God
right?
is good, but you have to
fun,
learn that language to figure out what he wants to say to you.
Yeah, he wants to talk to you really badly. But unfortunately, the angel Gabriel only spoke Arabic, so hate it for you. It doesn't count.
And especially when in the Quran, like, it refers to Hebrew.
Right.
Like,
right.
Okay, there's clearly not a holy language.
So when does the Tiber swimming start? How do you finally get to like, I'm gonna do this thing?
I'm pretty sure I'm going to do this thing at this point. This is like a week later, right? I'm a very I like there's some things that just supersede all the other things to my own detriment.
Sure.
And this is definitely one of them. So like when I was 16 and I was learning about atheism and all this other stuff and like diving into philosophy for the first time, like I didn't do any of my schoolwork.
Right.
I just sat in the gym and watched YouTube videos and like just kept doing that until I was sure that I didn't believe in God anymore. And then I tried to rebuild my life from there, right? So the same process is happening again. And I just basically, I go to college and I sit down and I open the scriptures and I'm just reading them. And then I go to college and then I sit down at a bench outside and I'm on the internet and I'm just like looking through the Summa.
Cool.
Or through the Quran and all these other things. And I totally ignore my classes and then drop out. I'm back. But like for that semester,
did you have a hard time as a college dropout constantly reading the Summa with hordes of women constantly following you around everywhere?
No.
Okay, yeah.
No.
So, I'm joking. I think it's the coolest thing of the entire world, but I can't imagine any of this was good for your social life.
No, it was
great.
Terrible.
Oh man, when I met him, I heard how much he read. I was like,
I cannot wait to hear that story next segment.
it's a fun story.
So a week later, you're like, I'm doing this thing.
I'm just reading. I'm just watching YouTube videos.
Do you know any Catholics that you're talking to other than Bree, who's, I guess she maybe
Yes, there was a focus missionary in Milledgeville. I would go visit my girlfriend, and I would just go to his house, and she would get super mad at me because I would just totally ignore her and just go to his house and just debate and talk about this stuff. And then he goes, "Hey, like you're in Kennesaw, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And you come down to visit Christina, and I yeah, and I was like, yeah. And then he was like, my best friend in high school is your missionary at your school. Have you ever met him? And I was like, no. And he was like, why don't you go to the Catholic Center? And I was like, that's a good point. I should do that. And then I do that, and I start talking to Peyton and Victor and a bunch of other people. And Peyton is great because Peyton is, I think, like, soon he is leaving for the Dominicans.
Okay,
so
this is the focus missionary.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's soon no longer going to be our focus missionary, and he's going to be at the Dominican House of Buddies.
So I don't want to brag, and we're already about an hour over time. So I'm sorry, I'm really into this. But at the Dominican House of Studies in Maryland, there is a portrait of St. Peter of Brussels, who's a scholastic scholar, who's a contemporary of Aquinas, and I was the model for St. Peter. So if you find it, if you go, hang on, where is it? Where's my phone? Oh, my phone's charging. After we're done, remind me and I'll show you a portrait of me. I put on the habit. I got like 100 different like photographs from different angles holding feather quills. All right, I'm sorry. We're going off. I like talking to you guys way too much.
Yeah.
All right, so was there a moment that was like...
Yeah, so that was one big moment. It was like, okay, I believe in God. Mm-hmm. That was a big moment. And then another big moment was like, okay, I'm considering Christianity first. Like I was dabbling around, looking around at all the different things
Sure.
and like different philosophies and stuff like that. Like just I had been doing for like years now. But now I was just kind of I was open towards looking towards to see if any of the religions of earth had an answer, because I was totally comfortable with just saying like, and that's why when I argue to like my friends that don't believe in God, it's like you don't have to go any further than this. I'm not. It's not what I'm asking you for right now. I'm saying, why don't you believe in God, and why does this argument not work for you? Right. Like, and then let's just talk about this, because you can be a deist. There were so many people, like our founding fathers. A lot of them were just deists. Like this is not like you're not going to be a Christian overnight, like I was. Like maybe you will, but like. That'll only be because if you're convinced if it's true.
But that's another great thing about the church, like we said earlier in the episode, right? If you're really searching for truth, you can search, man.
Yeah,
you're gonna come home. You're gonna
search
end up
for the
there.
truth.
Yeah.
Just like go out there and like run after it, right? And like I think that was really helpful, because I already had that kind of attitude and like running after it and all these other things. Like I like after reading like a lot of St. Thomas and a lot of other stuff, I kind of was just like, okay, well, how did we get to the point where like there's all of these people, right? But the biggest thing for Christianity that pulled me in was that like St. Thomas Aquinas was explicitly referring to the burning bush when he was talking about God being the foundation of being, right? Because this is a huge point for Jehovah's Witnesses, and I heard it my whole life, and I missed it because it was Jehovah's Witness. Because the Jehovah's Witnesses say, like, during the burning bush, like, kind of situation, right? Moses is talking to the bush. It's on fire. The leaves are not being consumed.
Right.
Very strange. And he says, like, who am I to say that you are? And God says, I am that which is. And Jehovah's Witnesses basically say, like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's because they took out God's name from the Bible, and then they go, I am Jehovah. Right. But the reason why it says I am that which is because that's what Jehovah, YHWH, Yahweh means. Like that's the meaning of the word. I am that which is saying I am being itself. Right. Like that's what that is.
Going back to the contingency argument.
Totally missed it. I totally missed that. Being raised as Jehovah's Witness. And then when that gets referred to, and then I go to the Hebrew and I look and I see that that's what that means, and then St. Thomas Aquinas is kind of like little, like, this is totally obviously what this is. Just let me just throw it in the summary, because it's like, it's probably important to know. You know, like, everybody knows this, but like we'll put it in there just in case, you know. I read that and I go, God, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure I do say, oh my God, and I think that's a proper context for it, because it's like the discovery of that. And I go, I'm just shocked, because now you have I've never thought about the 1200s. I'd never thought about the 1200s before until I was reading St. Thomas Aquinas. So St. Thomas Aquinas to me is absurdly old, because the 1800s are so absurdly old. Because the oldest thing to me is America, and it's like 1776, and then my religion begins in the 1800s. That's what I'm used to. And then all the philosophies after that, and like the Enlightenment thinkers are just like a little bit before that, and they're really old. But then now I'm reading this guy in the 1200s who keeps referring to people I've never heard of that are from the 300s. And prior, right? And then like I'm reading scripture, and he's making this philosophical argument that perfectly ties with scripture that was written by Moses. By Moses. Like we don't even know how old that is. It's so old, right? Like we're just estimating like ballpark somewhere maybe 6, maybe 4, maybe 3,000 years ago, but before Christ, right? Which and it's just an absurd amount of time from like a civilizational like anthropological like lens to consider, and it's just a perfect intellectual knit, right? With an experience to a philosophy to a way of life that now gets lived in the future. So that's why I started looking at Christianity immediately.
So I gotta ask you this question before we wrap up at some point. I know, Madeline, we're almost there. I promise. No, yeah. I wish we could do 3 more hours of this. Seriously, I'm so digging this. How did it go over when you talked to family about it? About your conversion?
Well, it was kind of more like I didn't want to talk to them about it, and then like because I knew that like they were gonna have all these arguments kind of lined up, and I didn't have the arguments to kind of shoot back. Right. So I kind of experiment with my brothers a little bit, kind of going like, bouncing a couple of like things like, like this is what Yahweh like actually means. Like the point of the thing is like this, right? And they know that I'm not a Jehovah's Witness at this point, but they don't know that I'm like considering a different faith, right? And I don't know that I'm fully considering a different faith. I'm just considering everything. I'm just open to wherever the truth takes me. But then when, basically they kind of like, they put forth their arguments and I kind of go back and forth and I'm not like settled in a position, right? So, I'm a bit weaselly about it. Just because like you naturally are if you don't know
family.
What you know.
Yeah, totally.
And then they kind of like go like, you have to talk to Dad about this because he was Catholic. And kind of my thing was like I wasn't planning on joining the Catholic Church or anything. I was just saying like Matthew 16 says that Jesus started a church and then he wasn't going to let it fall. And if the Messiah says I'm starting a church on this person, right? And then and it's never going to fall and the religion that my family believes in is like
200
and then it fell like immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it immediately just fell into ruin and with basically to them what the Trinity is a heresy, right? Like which is if that happens, it's like there's the apostles, there's the students of the apostles, and I would argue that the students of the apostles clearly have a Trinitarian theology in all of their words,
Polycarp,
right? Like
and Justin Martyr.
Yeah.
Ignatius of Antioch.
Yeah, Ignatius of Antioch was like the big one for me because it's 105, right? Like you can't tell me that like early Christianity didn't teach that Christ was God.
These guys who knew the
Ignatius
apostles.
of Antioch, the student of John, is to, like the person who likely wrote Revelation and it, like literally biblical person talking like is the student of this person.
Cross.
That's like saying like we don't know what Elijah said because we only know what Elisha said. Like like and so I'm clearly seeing that like if whatever Christianity is clearly authentically seems to believe that Christ is God, right? And I don't know how any of that works. And I'm not saying it makes sense to me, but you need to explain to me why apostolic succession isn't necessary from this one scripture alone, right? And I never really got a good explanation for that. I never got a good explanation for that. And I ended up talking to my dad and my mom and all these other things. My mom kind of like ran a little bit too like, just like kind of like poking.
Yeah.
But not really. Like, she didn't like it clearly, right? But I'm not sure that she didn't really have like a formalized arguments or anything like that. And then me and my dad, still kind of like, will have like pretty formal arguments about like what the truth is. Cause like, it's always been that way with me and my father. It was like, if like we're curious about something, I think it's this. Well, I think it's this. And then here's why I think it might be this or this and that.
That's great.
And here's why I think it's that, this, that, and the third. So like me and my dad basically, like there was a couple arguments that we had that got like emotional and then it was never really emotional after that.
Great.
And like most recently, I have Jamaicans like Fathers Know Best book. And I just like went to the like Christ is God and like pulled a bunch of things from that. And then like gave him the book and the section I wanted him to read out of it, and then he read out of it. And like now I see it's on his desk. There's like a piece of paper with like scriptures and a bunch of replies and things like that he's still working on.
That's great.
And
though.
so like that's kind of the state of it.
Yeah. Praise God. When did you officially come into the church?
Last year Easter.
So you're about to have your 1 year anniversary?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, are you celebrating your 1 year anniversary? Do anything?
Pashka.
What is it?
Pashka, like what? Easter. It's Easter.
I'm sorry.
It's already
you
a celebration. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, Easter's a pretty good one. And are you? You said that you went to Epiphany earlier today. Are you? Are you Byzantine Rite?
I got baptized in the Roman Rite, but I pretty much like a couple months after going to the Roman Rite, I started going to St. John Chrysostom, Melkite Catholic Church, and kind of haven't left there since. So like,
no, big shout out to the Eastern Rite Catholic churches. Like it pains me to I have this like cultural like nope, we're sticking Latin all day long, but
like, to me that doesn't
I get
mean
it.
anything.
I know.
It was just like Latin was weird. I was like, that's weird. All of it's weird. It's all weird.
Yeah. But the Easterns get us on liturgy oftentimes. I'm afraid they do a great job.
And like it definitely. My thing was like the Eucharist is difficult because like I read John chapter 6 and I'm convicted, right? Like it's you just can't deny it. You read John chapter 6 and you just go, I mean, you like, in the context of the Last Supper, like it has, like he has to mean this. Like
Right.
he has to mean this. Either the Gospel of John is not a real gospel, or the Eucharist is the flesh of Christ.
Right.
Like, sorry. And then every church father being just super Eucharistic about it, being like, how do you know that like those people aren't part of the church? They don't confess the Lord is in the bread and the body is
literally
like,
that direct though.
yeah, they're that direct. Like yeah, and then like same thing with like an against heresies. Like it's just so obviously that. But like I'm formally a very like, okay, I'm looking at that thing and I point light at it, and the spectroscopy that comes back tells me it's made out of iron.
Right.
That's iron. Right.
Right.
And if I did that with what the priest is holding up, I would get bread
Right.
on the thing, and so like that's immediately a difficulty for me. And like I remember just kind of like standing there and being like going to adoration when I was like kind of like figuring this out, because I was like, clearly Scripture says this, right? And there's Eucharistic miracles, but I will say I wasn't there. Like
Right.
there's the like it's really like it's in the ballpark of like I have to decide whether or not like this if I believe this or not, right? Because there's a lot of great miracles and there's good Scripture. And clearly, the whole church has believed this since like its inception, right? Like all the way back to Christ, and it seems that Christ means that when he says it. But I'm sitting here, and I feel like I'm looking at a piece of bread.
Right.
So one of the things that was super, super nice was like when I went to a TLM, and they didn't show me anything, and I was like,
See, I like because I'm
is
similar.
great.
I had a conversion of the mind first, and
Yeah.
it's hard. The mysteries are difficult.
Yeah, the mysteries are very difficult.
I think men struggle more than women do with that, right? Because men tend to have an intellectual conversion, right, and then try to move it to a conversion of heart, whereas women tend to have a conversion of heart, right?
Yeah,
I'm about to
this is
prove that.
Very much so hard.
He's
But
a
it's,
total
but it's a
flame.
strength of femininity, right? Like, because Jesus Christ didn't come to win our brains, right? He comes to win
Yeah.
our hearts, and it's really cool and neat that from it that we can intellectually sit to
Jesus
this
didn't write any philosophical treatises.
yeah, exactly. Which is really frustrating. But
Yeah,
okay,
which is
good. I like that. I like how we're gonna have sort of a mirror.
It's gonna be
the next episode.
completely opposite.
All right. Well, I've got to call it. I'm afraid once again, longest episode of Honest to God in the history of Honest to God. I wish it could be 4 hours longer.
I completely agree with that. It was incredible.
Oh,
I will
good.
say.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you liked it.
No,
Okay.
no, it was was really good.
Abayomi, we got to get you back to do something and dig into something else later
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
because that is
Yeah.
awesome. I love your brain. I want to spend hours picking at it. But right now, we got to call it, even for our podcast listeners who
Yeah.
are listening to a significantly longer
I
show.
know,
than
and I
our
hope
regular-
y'all all stuck around this long.
They did.
Yeah,
It's
they better
fantastic.
have.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. This might be my favorite episode we've ever done.
I think it has potential to be number one.
Yeah. Oh well, it's we're gonna have our editor Clip Farm the
You're
snot
famous.
at
Yeah.
Abayomi. That was really awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Claire. Thank you for
problem.
patiently being here as well.
I just like hearing him talk.
And we're gonna dig into your
Yeah.
story next week.
I'm gonna stay here in the bathroom for the next week, and
Yeah.
y'all just feed me through the
Just
little
get
slot under the
comfortable.
door.
Yeah, with the flat unleavened bread and stuff that we'll put up under there.
Oh,
for you.
yeah,
And
that's all I
the
need.
sink should work.
Perfectly through the slot.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen at home, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This has been Honest to God, a production of the Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. Producer Madeline,
Signing off.
over and out.